Hello and welcome to Elseworlds, a DC fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, is Chris. We're going to be talking The Dark Knight's 15th anniversary, if you could believe it or not. And we're going to dive into that. But first, Chris, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Went to the movies, saw Mission Impossible. My AC was working. I'd be doing fantastic. I got a bunch of grades back from my summer class, and I have 25 out of 25 points so far. So life is pretty good overall.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I already exercised today. I've been eating well this week. I'm feeling pretty good as well. So
You,
we're gonna dive
you're
into it
you're
here.
beating me there. I just had popcorn, so I'm not eating well today. That's for sure.
Yeah, the popcorn can be a little much at times. Um, but yeah, no, I'm planning to try to get to that movie maybe sometime this week. My wife's out of town, so it might be like a matinee on the weekend type of thing. I just have to watch the Fallout before I go because I haven't seen that. I've been catching up on these throughout the last week and a half or so. So um, yeah, so a new movie experience I haven't seen before, Mission Impossible, until about a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it's not really our jurisdiction on this podcast, but 9 out of 10 stars for me on this one. And yeah, I can't wait for to hear what you think of it because it was a lot of fun. Best action franchise in my opinion. When you get out of the superhero movies and you talk about action franchises, Mission Impossible to me is the top one.
Yeah, we won't digress too much on here, but
Oh yeah,
the first two were kind of silly in my opinion. But starting with J.J. Abrams' third one, I got really invested. Um,
agreed.
while it's not our jurisdiction here, I do want to say for anybody listening, if you think that I have enough podcast as it is, I don't. And me and my friend Casey, we've been covering Secret Invasion over there for the Marvel Pod, but we've been talking about it for years. We're gonna do it. It's a podcast where each week we talk a movie that one of us has not seen because we have a few movies we haven't seen. He hasn't seen Lord of the Rings. He hasn't seen. I haven't seen Pulp Fiction. So those are the type of
What?
movie. Yeah. There you go. So those will be the type of movies we're talking about. I'm making a list now of what movies I haven't seen, and we've been texting back and forth. So that'll be coming sometime in September. But yeah, I'm really excited to dive into that when get to see some more classics I haven't seen yet.
Mr. Podcast, Jordan.
Yeah, too many. Yeah, but anyway, we're gonna talk Dark Knight 15th anniversary. We can kind of also talk about maybe where we were when it came out, what was the vibe, when we saw it, all that kind of good stuff. Because so this movie released back in July, same month that we're in currently. Oh, actually, yesterday was the UK, the UK anniversary. But July 14th is when it had the premiere. July 18th of 2008 is when it actually released to the public here in the United States. Of course, directed by Christopher Nolan, screenplay by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan, story by Christopher Nolan and David S. Goyer, and starring Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Heath Ledger, Gary Oldman, Aaron Eckhart, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Morgan Freeman, to keep on naming some, with music by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. All right, so I guess when this came out, I was in my I was in my junior year of high school. That had just ended. I was going into my senior year of high school. I did not see this in theaters. I actually did not see The Dark Knight until after Rises it came out.
Wow.
So around probably 2012, 2013, I had to get it from the library. But that is when I watched it. When I was growing up, we didn't go to the movies as much. Like we went for like the big events like Harry Potter that my mom would take me to, or Star Wars. I didn't see Iron Man in theaters either. So it was once I started kind of getting jobs, my own job, that I was able to start taking myself to the movies, or at least not rely on when I have a car. Being able take myself to the movie instead of having to beg my parents to go to the movies. So now I go to the movies a lot more than I used to. Um, but I actually did not see any of the Dark Knight trilogy in theaters when they came out. So all of those were DVD watches later on, and it's time for me. And I don't know why. I don't really know why I didn't ask. Um, Batman was a huge part of my childhood. I was, watching the animated series. I liked, the '89 and Returns and Batman Forever, and even as a kid, I probably liked Batman and Robin. And I guess it just, from what I saw, like previews and stuff, it just didn't really interest me as a kid. Growing up too, I was just kind of like, I wanted the more comic book fantastical Batman than what we were getting. Um, which is why, like, '89 was my jam because of the way Gotham looked and all that kind of stuff. Which, then you see the trailers for these movies, and Gotham looks like, Chicago or Pittsburgh, etc. So, uh, yeah. So, and I guess it wasn't really like, my dad's not a Batman fan, really. Like, he wasn't movie wise. I guess he would read comics and he liked the cartoon. My mom liked the cartoon too, but they never really seemed interested in going, so I never went. And it came around to, like I said, I couldn't even buy Blu-rays for a while or DVDs when they were out until I started really getting my own job. I'd have to ask for them, right? Or, and you don't know, I never know, like, I don't really ask for movies that I haven't seen a lot of the times because you don't know how it's going to be. I would end up buying them myself. And for this movie particularly, I uh, just went to the library, picked it up, watched it, and then same thing with, I think, Rises. Like, I did all three of them in like the span of maybe a week or so. Um, I didn't own the Dark Knight until 2020, actually.
Wow. Yeah, I was about the same age as you. Um, I went to see it in the theater. I actually saw it opening weekend. And that's so rare back then that I would do that. But my brother and one of his friends was going, and I was pretty big Batman fan, so I tagged along. And it was a real late showing. The theater was packed in Westminster. That didn't happen a ton. And I mean, I don't remember a theater experience quite like it. There was a buzz for the movie, and it was, dude, it blew me off my feet. I just was wowed by the movie, and I think that theater experience provided a little bit more reverence for it than watching it, after the fact at home. I've seen the whole Dark Knight trilogy in the theaters, so it doesn't work for every movie. Rises didn't quite, I have issues with that movie as we've talked about. I like it to a point. There are things that I like in it, and I can focus on the positives. But The Dark Knight to me was just 2008, weird time in my life, high school. Put this in perspective. It was before I started working at Giant, been there since 2009. It was the same year that John Harbaugh and Joe Flacco came to the Ravens. Um, so, I mean, 2008, kind of a crazy year. The MCU started. 2008 was a huge year, but I graduated in 2009. So, um, man, I just kind of goes back to that. But 15 years, I've probably watched this movie, I don't even know how many times. I watched it yesterday, and I can almost word for word. I can just put it on mute and word for word this movie. It's fantastic. I love it to death. I think it's the. I think it's a top. I think it's a top 10 film all time. So,
Mm.
like, period. Like, regardless of superhero films. And I have a feeling we're going to clash on that one.
Wait,
But
I mean, I don't know about Clash, but I'm not gonna like throw a stink or anything. It's a very popular opinion, but for people that know, like, I was just laughing. I wasn't laughing at Chris watching it a million times. I was laughing because just off the air we were talking about how many times we've watched this, and I said I can tell you exactly how many times I watched it 3 times so far. I watched it that year in like 2012. I watched it in 2020, and I watched it in 2022. Those are the 3 times I've watched The Dark Knight. So I know this is going to be unpopular, and I'm not doing this for hot takes. I said this on the super villain draft and stuff. It's just my honest opinion. I think it's a good movie, but I'm not like in love with it the way everyone else is. It's not my favorite Batman movie. It is not my favorite Nolan movie. It is, it's the best of the trilogy, I still think. But for me, that's just not like, maybe because I watched it so much later and wasn't really in love with it then, I haven't continued. Like I just kind of came across it late. It was already hyped up. To me, it didn't live up to the hype. I think it's a little overly long too. But um, yeah, so that's kind of my feelings on The Dark Knight just starting right off. I can't even really pinpoint what exactly I like makes me feel that way. It's just like when I watch it, I'm not like blown away, right? Like I'm not really blown away by it. Um, I think the opening's cool, the whole Joker scene, right? Like at the beginning with the banks and all that. Like I like that scene. There's the other hot take, right? For that we found out from the supervillain draft is that I'm not a big fan of Heath Ledger's Joker. Uh,
Load on that one, buddy.
yeah, for me, Mark Hamill Joker, he's it. He's the one. I don't really care for any other interpretation of Joker. I don't really care for Jack Nicholson's, right? I don't really care for. We haven't really seen the Batmans, right? We saw like a glimpse of them. I'll let them develop him more before I figure out if I like it or not. So I don't like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. The movie's good. I don't really. He's not Joker to me. He's the Joker before Joker, right? That's what it seems to be for me. I'm not really looking forward to the sequel. And geez, I just feel like I'm rattling off probably really hot takes.
Okay.
But is that
It's
all of
all
the live
good.
action Joker? Oh no, Jared Leto. Oh hell no. Don't like that Joker either. So
Well, we agree on Jared Leto. I'm not a Jared Leto guy, and I agree that Mark Hamill is
yeah.
up there. If you say he's the best Joker, or you say Heath Ledger's the best Joker, I'm fine either way. I'm fine either way. Those are the two answers. Anything else? I actually don't like Jack Nicholson's Joker that much, so I'm with you on that. I think one of the greatest sins in movie history is that Robin Williams did not play the Joker in that movie, but he would have killed
I
it.
think he did I think Nicholson did fine. It's just like it I don't know. There's something about, I don't feel like they've nailed Joker in any movie. For me. Like I don't think they've nailed like my ideal image of Joker in any
So
movie.
you had the animated series and Arkham games in your head, and the animated movies. You had all that Mark Hamill in your head, and that's your Joker.
Well,
And
I
you had all
actually
the
hadn't
comics
played
too.
Arkham.
And
I actually hadn't played any of the Arkham games until 2015 when Arkham Knight came out. So,
okay,
yeah,
well,
but yeah, I had like
you
the
had that
animated
preconceived
series
idea in
in
your
my
head.
head and
And so
comic
it didn't
Joker
live
too.
up to your expectations because your expectations was so maybe it's not that it's not good, it's just that it doesn't fit your preferences
I
for
can say
Joker.
he acted well. I can say like he's a good, like he acted well as Joker. For me though, it's not the Joker I like.
Right.
You know?
You don't like the anarchist
No.
just trying to make the world burn
No,
thing.
I
See,
don't.
I thought that was great. I also thought the reason it was so good was because it was a little different and it was unique. And I think it was a great performance because I don't think anyone could have done it like that. And the masterful performance of Heath Ledger to me was I can do a pretty good Joker voice, but he put a new take on it that I can't even do. I've tried. I can't even do it. It just doesn't work for my, I like to add a little gravel to Mark Hamill's. That if you notice when I do my Joker voice, I like to make it like really gravelly. And I Heath Ledger's is just, you got to lick your lips all the time, and
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like the
twitch
lip
your eyes,
licking. I
and
don't like any of that.
I, it's just, but it's so unique, and I think it brought some juice back into the Joker for the popular culture. I think, because you just talked about it, the movies, if you weren't a huge comic book fan, an Arkham fan, or animated stuff, like general population that goes to the movies, general audience, the Joker's not that much for you right at that point. The Joker needed a bit of a facelift for the public perception. And Heath Ledger just took it to another level. Now, I think it's a little scary when I see some people identify a little too much with him. Um, but
You know what was scary? You know what was scary is, because let's not hide away from this stuff too, but the events
Mhm.
from Dark Knight Rises, right? When that
Oh, that was
premieres
horrible.
and you have a shooting happen. Well, I went to go see the Batman and person's dressed up as Heath Ledger's Joker, right? And
That's a
I'm
little
like,
scary,
yeah, that's
yeah.
a little scary because I'm like I feel like if it was any other villain, like if they're dressed up as Penguin, I'd be like, haha, right? But it's like the connotation of Joker, right? Like,
If they were dressed up in Penguin, you would just think they were overdressed.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, if it's Colin Farrell Penguin, yeah. But if they're like DeVito Penguin, you're like, oh, watch out. But you know, it's like for some reason it's just like what Joker is and stands for. Like I would never cosplay as Joker because I like the character Joker, but I don't want to be seen as like a Joker like fanboy where people are worried about like me, so and because of the events that happened in 2012, it was a little scary of like what if this guy tries to reenact that, right? Like this is the next
Hmm.
biggest Batman movie since then because BVS was a mixed movie and not a Batman movie. So
Right.
all of that stuff was kind of playing in my head when you see like a guy dressed up as Heath Ledger Joker at a movie.
I might have left the theater. I'm not going to lie. That's a little scary.
It was fine though.
It's a little
Let's just say he
deranged.
did not do anything. He was a fine guy. It's just like like the stuff that plays in your head.
Sure, he was, pal.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I like Heath Ledger's Joker because he, he was crafty. He had a genius plan. He kind of wins in the movie, and it's just Christopher Nolan says this movie is just an absolute engine driven by the Joker, and that's kind of what it is. And when it reaches that level, when you have, you know, Rachel and Harvey tied up to the oil drums, and you have you have him becoming Two-Face, blowing up the hospital, and he's trying to get the two ferry boats, to blow each other up, and then they and ultimately don't. The hostages were dressed up as his goons. It was just, and then he had Harvey, my little ace in the hole. Like it's just, dude, it's so there was so much, and there's just so calculated and crafted. It, and it was just the dichotomy between Batman and the Joker. Batman is literally at a point where there's nothing he can do to get through to the Joker. He can't beat him the way that he beats anybody else. It's literally everything they've done in the comics forever, and the Arkham games, I think, are the only thing that touches this Joker Batman relationship on screen.
Yeah, anything else about Joker part of it before maybe we just talk about like the rest of like any other things we want to talk about like separately before we kind of dive into maybe the story
The
itself or
interrogation
the
scene,
yeah.
we just have to touch on that interrogation scene. That when Joker is getting pummeled and he's laughing and he likes it, and then he is talking to after Batman beats him up, he's talking to the cop, asking him how many of his friends did he kill. I just all I want is my phone call. He's just trying to get this guy to lose his cool so he can go through his plan. That scene is one of my favorite scenes in all of movies. It's fantastic.
Um, let's see here. I don't have too much to say about that scene. But I guess overall, let's talk also about a casting change, right? They moved on from Katie Holmes and brought in Maggie Gyllenhaal for Rachel Dawes. Um, so I guess what was your thoughts on the change here? Do we know why that happened? Was she like not available? I can't remember.
She turned down a
Turn it
contract.
down. Okay.
She didn't want it. And I believe that was when she was in the midst of all the Tom Cruise controversy stuff. So that probably has something to do with it. But you know, I actually think it's an upgrade in terms of acting quality. I think Maggie Sawyer did a really good job. Um,
Gyllenhaal, not
and
Sawyer.
I apologize for that's my dumb of the day. Um, but no, I thought she did a really good job, and her connection with Bruce was a through line through the movie, and that was written really well. And you know, Alfred burning the letter is one of the scenes that pops out in my head, and I thought she was a very awesomely written character. She was very balanced. She was, you know, never in. She was never against Batman, but she never was what Bruce wanted it to be because you know he needed Batman. I enjoyed her involvement in the movie. I thought it made Bruce a more interesting character.
Yeah, no, I think she did a good job. She's better than Katie Holmes, I think, in the role as well. So I think it.
Has a little bit more gravitas.
Yeah, yeah, and I'd always rather an actor that wants to be there than doesn't want to be there as well. So um, I thought it was good, having her in there then. But I guess let's see, everybody else is the same, right? You got Michael Caine. Oh, I guess we can talk Aaron Eckhart and Harvey Dent, Two Face, right? Because it's a big role in this film, and then we also have, his legacy affects The Dark Knight Rises, which we're not really going to touch on much here, but the way that they have this thread continue into the next film is with the Harvey Dent law type stuff. But um I guess your thoughts on Two-Face, because I think we kind of got into it a little bit in one of the shows recently, maybe the supervillain draft, where we all kind of said, in my opinion, I think he shouldn't have died in this. I think that he should have been maybe not even Two-Face in this movie. I think you could have had him just be Harvey Dent and then become Two-Face in this movie and then it go into the next one or something. I think there's another movie here that they could have done without just killing off Two-Face. This is kind of my problem with
I
this
agree.
is kind of my problem with what we've talked about before about what the early 2000s and before handled their supervillains, right? It was always they get killed off pretty much. And with Harvey Dent, like he was barely ever Two-Face, and I think that's a problem I have with this movie too. Um, again, and none of these complaints are like huge. Like what I'll say is I've come to terms with a lot of this stuff since then, and now that we have other films since then, it's easier for me to stomach. I kind of talked about that with Man of Steel when we talked about Man of Steel. But when we have like another set of films afterwards now that are touching on things that I did like, um, it makes some of the stuff that I didn't like in this one like, oh, that's just another universe, right? That's just another universe, and if I want a more realistic Batman, I can go to that universe. I can watch it, whatever. Um, but for a while, this was like the main universe, right? So like, and they weren't touching
Hmm.
Batman again, really, and it was uh not until really we got the Batman that we got a whole different experience. Because again, I don't really consider BVS a Batman movie. So for me, it's like it had been a long wait. 10 years since The Dark Knight Rises for when we got the Batman. And that was, not to turn this into the Batman podcast real quick, but that is for me my favorite Batman movie, and it is the Batman I've wanted. So it makes me let some of this stuff go a little bit more in these now, because
Hmm.
it's like I got what I wanted. I can appreciate some of this stuff a little bit more like now, right? Like then, instead of sitting there being like, "Oh, that's not what I want."
Yeah, I get a lot of what you just said. I will agree. The Batman's actually my favorite Batman movie too. I actually think The Dark Knight might be a better film, but my all my Batman stuff that I want in a movie was in the Batman, and that's why. That's also why I am okay with people saying, Batman Begins was a better Batman movie, even if it wasn't a better movie. Um, Especially probably something you can get with since you don't love Heath Ledger's Joker. And I think the Two Face thing is disappointing because he's my favorite Batman villain, and it's actually why I want James Gunn to touch Two Face rather than Matt Reeves. Because if Matt Reeves touches Two Face, I'm going to get him in one movie, and it's going to be what we always get: the fall into Two Face. And I kind of just want a movie where he's Two Face. I have so many outlets, so many comics,
But
so
what if
many.
that's not how he does it, right? Let me just pitch to you that
Mhm.
Harvey Dent appears in the second movie here and does not become Two Face, and then in the third movie becomes Two Face, and in the second movie he is just Harvey Dent, and the main villain is
If we get a
something
Batman
else.
Part 3,
Yeah, I think we
if
will.
we
We
get a
definitely
Batman
will.
Part
Yeah.
3. Well, with James Gunn's DCU, I have some reservations if that's going to happen because a conflict of interest and, who's running the studio. And
Yeah.
because it's an Elseworlds, it's possible. But I also think the more you do the Elseworlds thing, the more you're kind of poking the Snyder cult in on the shoulders and going, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, which isn't really fair. We shouldn't have to worry about that.
Well,
But look,
I disagree with that. I disagree with that, because even if you didn't have the Elseworlds labels, they would still be asking and begging for it anyway. And here's the thing too: Elseworld labels are gonna happen for stuff that was popular. I'm sorry, but the
mhm.
Zack Snyder universe was not popular. It wasn't. And when you look at it that way, that the Suicide Squad outperformed Zack Snyder's Justice League on HBO Max and was more popular than something that people were begging for, then there's no way that they would continue that universe at all. So I could
Hmm.
totally see, like, for me, I'm hedging my bets. If I'm Zaslav and James Gunn, they're releasing Batman Part 2 before Brave and the Bold. If that does really well, we're talking 800 million to a billion, then uh then you see Brave and the Bold come out and it doesn't do that much, then hell yeah, I'm putting out a third the Batman. You know what I'm saying?
It's
Because
fair.
that's the popular Batman at that point. So I think they won't like cut it off if it isn't gonna continue to be popular. But I think they'll let him have his trilogy. They're still letting him do the TV shows and stuff. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we're getting more.
It's Warner Brothers. I always play it with a
Different
grain
regime.
of
Different
salt.
regime.
Fair enough. I will say that, but Zaslav is also a cheap bastard. And pay your damn writers. But Two Face. I we didn't get enough of him in it, but it was a great Harvey Dent movie. Harvey Dent was the White Knight. He was the hope for Gotham. He was the idea that could save. He was the hero they needed. Um, and that was the through line, not the hero we deserve, the you know, hero we deserve, not the hero we need. And you know, he was also part of the Joker's plan. So if you don't have Harvey Dent, then the Joker's plan kind of fails. And he was the insurance. He was the way that Joker was going to win this movie. And I, look, I thought Aaron Eckhart was fantastic. I think the line that you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain is one of the iconic lines from this movie. I thought Aaron Eckhart was very charismatic. I thought he was charming. And it makes it sad. It adds some weight and some heaviness to the movie that I think makes it just legitimizes so much. And he works so well with Christian Bale's Batman and Heath Ledger's Joker. And it's just I was very impressed with it. And I thought him and uh Rachel had great chemistry in the movie, and it made really believable, that when he's begging them to save Rachel, not him, and he burns up, and there was a lot of good with Harvey Dent. It was a great Harvey Dent movie. I just wish I had more Two
Hmm.
Face. That's it. I mean, I have no complaints with Harvey Dent, and the fact of the matter is. Harvey Dent is Two Face, and make your own luck in the coin. There was a lot of stuff there. It just was it I felt wanting more, but because the Joker delivered so much for me and it was such a hit for me, I didn't care. I didn't care because I was like, dude, I was thinking we were going to get a third movie with Joker. I thought we were going to get Joker as two Heath Ledger Joker, and then he died shortly after. So that was a tragedy because if you can't tell me if he stays alive, rises happens like that. No,
Well, he
Joker
passed
would have had
before
another
it
movie.
premiered, right? It shows like
I don't
January
know.
2008, because I remember
Oh, you might be
that was
right.
when the beginning of what I would say is the hyping up of the Joker started, because everybody did the whole thing where they say, "Oh, this character takes a toll on you," and it was depressing him so much he killed himself. And that's not really. I don't think there's any actual proof of that. He was, um,
Jack Nicholson seems to be doing fine, guys.
Mark Hamill's fine, right? Like, I mean, like, really, it is only the one person who's really had any problems, and that may have just been.
Hey, Caesar Romero is still alive, right?
Oh, I don't know if he's still alive now. Is he?
I think he is. I'm looking
Yeah,
this up.
look it up. But yeah, it's one of those things where I think that became such a thing. It almost felt macabre, right? Like of
Good
how they
word.
would how people were treating this, of like, you have to go see it because it killed him. And that was kind of like, as a kid especially, this is what I was hearing in high school and stuff, right? Like, it's just like, he was so good in this role. People are saying he did really good job because and he took it home and he killed himself over it. And it's like, that seemed a little like, for me as a kid, I was like, I don't know if I want to see it then. But it was like, I thought people were looking forward to the wrong thing out of it. Almost to see, like, I got to see it to see why it drove him mad. And not like that's not how everybody was, but it seemed like that's how, like,
No, I
kids
get
were,
it.
I was like, oh, I don't know about
I
that.
I think your expectations is the biggest obstacle to this movie. I think that's what it is. By the way, I was incredibly wrong. Cesar Romero died in '94.
Oh yeah, a long time ago. But
So
it wasn't because of the
yeah.
Joker, right? So there you go.
No, but that's the point. The reason I thought he might still be alive is I'd be like, I feel like I would have heard if he had
Right.
died.
Well, yeah,
You
you were
know,
like
uh,
only a couple of years old, right?
4 years old. So yeah, so 4 years old. Uh, yeah, I think your expectations are the problem you have with this movie. It's just, I think it's such a clean, powerful script, and I think Christian Bale is so damn good. And the copycat Batman's in a movie was a really interesting idea. And what makes you different? I'm not wearing hockey pads.
I will say though,
Oh,
after we were watching it recently too, I feel like this is the movie
yeah,
where Bale's voice gets off track. When I was watching
yeah,
Batman
I agree.
Begins, I was like, "Oh, it's not that bad of a voice." And then, like, rewatching The Dark Knight, I'm like, "Oh, this is when he started doing it."
Well, he he has that awesome scene in Begins where he goes, where the guy's like, "I swear to God," and he picks him up on
Mhm.
the grapple and goes, "Don't pray to him, pray to me." And it's like perfect, pitch perfect. And then the hockey pads line, and then some of his lines of Gordon. It's just like it's a little forced.
Yeah, well, it's really, like,
Like
breathy, like,
yeah. It's like,
"Commissioner,"
well, apparently
you know?
apparently he didn't like his cowl because it crushed his
Yeah,
nose.
so it
So I
probably did
wonder
have
if that
problems.
had something to do with it. So apparently he was really miserable making this movie because he couldn't pee and he couldn't
Mm.
breathe. So like it took him forever to get out of the
This
suit
just shows me I
apparently.
could never be Batman, right? Like, I could never play the role because I have a small bladder, so I would actually they'd get me back in the suit, and I'd be like, "Guys, we gotta
You would
pause.
just add a
We
zipper.
gotta pause again."
Because Bale's advice to
Yeah, yeah,
Pattinson
yeah.
was make sure they have a zipper. Um, well, but I actually think the opposite. I think Batman's not so bad because like he doesn't have a full mask. Spider-Man would I'm claustrophobic just thinking about that mask. Like it freaks me out. Like I don't know how you breathe. Like COVID-19 I was a good boy, mask over the nose. I hated it. Now, was I at the point where I was complaining about it constantly and like fighting it? No, because I wanted to be safe and protect other people. But I didn't find it fun.
Yeah, yeah, no, that I was kinda the same way with that, but I would think with Spider-Man, you're at least, like I don't know if how many times like, it's an easy mask to take off, it looks like, compared to, the cowl and stuff between takes.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess for the actor, but it's just the idea of constantly being
Yeah,
with my
yeah,
face covered. Can never be Spider-Man or Deadpool. I can never do it.
yeah. Any of those full face.
Deadpool's is heavy too. That mask looks
Yeah, it
heavy.
does, it's like a tougher material than the,
Mm.
Spider-Man suit.
And he's got like regenerative properties, so why is it thicker? Like you think it would be thinner. This got off base.
Um, yeah, so they have, I guess what do we wanna talk about next with it? Maybe the legacy of the movie or, did
Yeah, well, I feel like we've already talked about the legacy by you taking a sledgehammer to it. I uh I think this movie is a great case study in Batman and in perseverance and to make Batman dark without making it so unbearable. There's so much color to this movie. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so dark," but the Joker, the all the there was little bits of humor. There there was a lot packed into this film, and I just thought it was. I think it's how you do Batman. I think this movie is a case study in how you do Batman, his impossible fight, a fight that he can't win, and why he is the Dark Knight. The silent guardian, a watchful protector, a Dark Knight. That's kind of it's a blueprint for how you do Batman. Now you can incorporate other things like the Batman did, very similar things to the Dark Knight and very similar to Batman Begins, but it has this blueprint to work with. And before that, Michael Keaton, you always say you like how the Burton films looked with Gotham, and I agree with you on that. But the world that Batman has in the future movies is mind blowing. I sometimes don't love the look of Gotham. I agree with you that it looks too much like a regular city, but the themes and the things you're dealing with Gotham, it's just pitch perfect.
Yeah, so this movie was, is constantly hailed now as, one of the best, superhero movies of all time. It was it nominated for an award? I was looking at I just saw it somewhere. Now I'm trying to figure out.
I think
Um,
Heath Ledger won post mortem.
where is okay? Here it is. Oh no, this doesn't state if it was. Oh, okay. Here we go. He was. Yeah. He received posthumous awards for best supporting actor, which was making The Dark Knight the first comic book film to receive major industry awards. It broke several box office records that year, became the highest grossing 2008 film and the fourth highest grossing film of all time at the time, not anymore, and the highest grossing superhero film. That lasted maybe 4 years when the Avengers took it over. Um, but yeah, so that was the kind of what the critical reception was, right? Like, I don't think in 2008 we were too worried about Rotten Tomatoes. It was a lot more about like just what people were saying and awards and
It
box
was a
office,
simpler
all that kind of
time.
stuff.
It was a simpler time.
Yeah, it was a little easier back then, right? Where you just saw a movie if it interests you, and not like what's the Rotten Tomato score? Where people come out with
This,
agendas
this,
on the Rotten Tomato score.
well, this is a very common theme I'm seeing. This is a very common theme. I'm going to the theater. The people in the theater are leaving saying, "Hey, that was good." And most of the people I know that have seen it like the movie. And yet you go online, it's the worst thing that ever happened. It's an insult to every character that was ever written by every writer. It's just horrible. It should be locked up in jail. It's so bad. And then, you talk to people about it in real life and they liked it. I don't understand it. I legitimately don't understand it. Now, to be fair, with the Flash at least, I know people who liked it and
Right,
people who
right,
didn't
right.
like it. But like Mission Impossible is kind of doing underwhelming, and like
Only doing
Indiana Jones is doing
well, yeah, but
underwhelming.
Mission Impossible is only really doing underwhelming when you look at box office. Like, the reception has still been really good, so I'm kind of
Right,
confused
that's
by
fair.
it. But you know,
Well, it's like a great movie that people just don't care about. Um, I think Indiana Jones is a great example of people just don't care right now. But which is sad because it is a tentpole franchise. I, although I don't care about it to be honest. I didn't see it in theaters. I plan on watching it on streaming. But
well, that was another
yeah, it's
2008
it's
movie,
weird.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. There we go.
Another thing I saw in theaters.
I did see
It's
that in theater.
weird.
Yeah, I did.
I saw that in theaters with my family. I think on vacation,
Hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
See, that was probably my
Um,
summer 2008 movie because my parents like uh Indiana Jones, so we all went to see that, and that was around the time Iron Man was out, so we kind of skipped Iron Man at that point, and I guess we saw this, and then by the time Dark Knight comes out, you're like, oh, we already went to the movies this this summer.
yeah, you heard it here first, folks. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull
A better movie
over
than
Iron
Dark Knight.
Man.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, I will leave right now. Like, I actually don't even dislike Kingdom of the Crystal Skull that much. Like, I
No, I
don't
like it
find it this
actually. Yeah, I
horrible
don't
film.
dislike it.
But if you say it's better than Dark Knight, I will leave right now.
um,
Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, I think it's just a movie that everybody loves. Batman fans adore. It's just I its legacy is cemented. I think its legacy is the one thing that's. I think I wish it had better legs after it. I wish Rises followed it up the way that I wanted it to. I wish that we got. I wish Heath Ledger never died and we got more Joker. I wish we got more Two Face. I, there are. I think that that's part of it, you know, is it didn't age great for me where, oh, so you're saying Batman's just gonna have three big battles and in between the second battle, he's going to
For 8
stop
years.
being Batman.
Yeah, that's a little
Exactly.
weird.
And it's like, and like when you're a comic book fan, like there's 80 years of storytelling, and there's so many, like each Batman story arc is so wide and long. It's just, it's disappointing. Knowing how many villains this Batman will never see. And Bane and Talia were just done horribly. And Talia al Ghul is one of the more important characters in comics, and just so disrespectfully done in The Dark Knight Rises. The League of Shadows, the League of Assassins, what you call it, it should have been done better because Batman Begins did Ra's al Ghul so well. It's just really frustrating. I really like Bane as a villain, and I don't like Tom Hardy's Bane that much. I like the greatest legacy of Tom Hardy's Bane, as we talk about this trilogy overall, is the animated Harley
Mhm.
Quinn show, and how he's basically doing a Tom Hardy impression. And the Valentine's Day special they had this year, where Bane gets is worried about the size
Mm.
of his thing, and he gets the magic spell to, and uh, he ends up destroying buildings by like humping buildings. It's like because he's towering over. It's one of the funniest things I have ever seen in my life. Just my ribs are still broken. So Harley Quinn's Bane is the greatest thing to happen because of Tom Hardy's Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. Everything else with that villain, I just did nothing for me because I think of the comics and in Arkham Origins, he's so damn good.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
funny. His television, like his movie appearances, leave a lot to be desired, right? Because you get the one from Batman and Robin, right? Which
Batman and
is just like
Robin.
he's a
Hmm.
mindless idiot in that one, and then you have this one, which he's just a guy um, who talks weird.
He's
Yeah,
strong. He's strong, cool. But Batman's strong too. Like it's not it's not believable that Tom Hardy breaks Christian Bale's back that easily.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just, because Christian Bale was buff as hell for these Batman movies. Like, and then I think Christian Bale might be the greatest actor of our day, but his transformations, like, I believe he went from like either The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises to the
Yeah,
mechanic.
I think it was between the two
And,
Batman movies because I think I read somebody say that then he had to bounce back into the shape for Batman right after it.
and then after all that, he plays Dick Cheney and balloons up. And God, he was such a smug son of a bitch in that movie, and that's how you know he did a good job. Um, it was it was a really well done movie. I just have an unbelievable amount of respect for Christian Bale. I think he's fantastic. I don't love the way they fight in the Dark Knight trilogy. The action hasn't aged great, but it's a little like never see the punches go through kind of thing. But I really love Christian Bale, and I think his Bruce Wayne, the fundraiser with Harvey Dent, and then he just confidently goes to um, the little Batcave entrance in at his place, and that couple's like, "Oh, great, a panic room," and it just closes behind him. Are you freaking kidding me? I love that scene. I don't know why I love that scene. It's like a little small thing, but I love that scene. It's fantastic. Oh, and when he's jumping to save Rachel from the fundraiser out the window, he's like, "Let her go." Very, very poor
Hmm.
choice of words there. It's such a great scene. And then you have the Joker almost believing that Harvey Dent is Batman because of that. It's just unbelievable uh, the way that I just love this movie. I'm sorry. It's hard because I want to gush over it. Like, and I feel like I'm just like, all right, what are you going to throw next? And that's, but you do respect the movie, and I respect the fact that you have a nuanced take on it. You're not just hating
Mhm,
on it.
mhm.
I feel like people are going to say as feedback that, oh, Jordan's hating on this movie, but
I'm not crazy about Ben Affleck. I mean, not Ben Affleck. Christian Bale is Batman either, but
I'm done. Bye.
I
This
liked
has
him
been
more. I liked
Elseworlds
him more in
DC Fan
Batman
Podcast.
Begins than the next two. But yeah, I'm not too crazy about Bale. But yeah, I know I'm in the minority with
Oh,
that
his
too.
Bruce Wayne is fantastic. Bruce Wayne is fantastic. If you argue about the Joker, the Batman voice, the growl, fine. I That's a valid criticism. Bruce Wayne is fantastic. I really love the Bruce Wayne commitment that he has. For example, he runs the red light to s- stop Reese,
Hmm,
the
hmm.
guy who's gonna tell the identity of Batman, from dying. And Jim Gordon goes, that was a very heroic thing you did there, Bruce Wayne, isn't it? He goes, no, well, I just was chasing the light. Like, maybe I should go to the hospital. And Gordon's like, you don't watch a lot of news, do
Right,
you?
right.
Such a like that Bruce Wayne. No one in the world could ever believe that that guy was Batman. So if anything, he had it down too well. His Bruce Wayne was pitch perfect.
Yeah, I'll just clarify again. I do like the movie. I don't hate the movie. For anybody listening, but it's just not my. It's not up there
Well,
for me at all. It's not in
you
my top 10 superhero
you're
movies. It's
you're
not.
you're also working against me, who loves it. So it's like kind of like it to, oh my God, it's so good. Thank you. Like if it wasn't for Robert Pattinson and Matt Reeves, it would be my favorite Batman
Mhm.
movie. Uh, Batman Begins. It depends on my mood. Let's be honest. I feel like Batman Begins is an easier one to just put on randomly. Like I feel like you have to invest in the Dark Knight a little bit more. Batman Begins, you can just kind of put in. That's one you can have on in the background.
Yeah, it's
But
not. I'll say this for people. I like it. It's not in my top 10 comic book movies. So I kind of leave it with that.
and to leave you with a sense of excitement and a little tease for more, we are going to do a superhero
Yes,
movie
sometime
draft
soon.
with Ron. Yeah, we've done two shows with Ron, and they've been a blast. For the people who don't know, I was originally going to start a show called Multiversal Omnibus with Ron, and then things happened, and he kind of backed out of that, and wasn't in the place to like do it. And then he's like, "Hey, I got this great idea for this," and it's so cool to podcast with a guy, one of my best friends, one of the best people I know. Just awesome, awesome to have fun with him, and I'm glad that you two are becoming
Hmm.
friends too because that's really fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been good getting to know him and having somebody on every once in a while that can um bring us fun ideas or do different formats than what we're doing. I mean, look, we got a bit right. We got Blue Beetle sometime in mid-August that we'll have to cover at some point, but
Hmm.
um other than that, then we're not doing anything until Aquaman if they keep it there. There's talk that WB
It's
there's
not
talks that
happening.
WB might move some of these things around and um because of the strikes and all that. So if not, you'll see a lot more of those type of episodes of the draft or comic discussion because we
Yeah.
don't want to go through all of the big comic storylines yet either
Hmm.
because we want to save some of those for other years. You don't want to blow
Yeah,
blow
because
it
we
all.
did Long Halloween, we did Flashpoint,
Well,
we did. Have we haven't done
we
All Star
haven't.
Superman. That's
Maybe
one
that'll
we
be
could get
closer
into.
to Superman. But uh
Yeah, Superman Legacy.
next year, I want to talk about this too. Next year, they've already announced what they're
Hmm.
doing: Watchmen and Crisis on Infinite Earth as the animated films.
Oh yeah, we
So we'll
totally got to
I
do
haven't
that.
watched Watchmen. I haven't read Watchmen, so maybe that'll be something we can get into. But I also haven't read Crisis on Infinite Earths, the comic yet. So maybe next year around then we're reading the comic and then talking about the movie or something.
I would love to read the comic because I actually bought the comic. It's
Mm,
like a hardcover back when I was really getting like just getting into comics, and it was a little too involved. There's a little too many
it's a
things
long,
tied
it's 12
into it,
issues or something, right?
and
It's
I
long.
yeah, and it's a lot, and it's a lot of stuff that wasn't really I hadn't built my roster of DC knowledge. Like so it was a little overwhelming for me. So I'd love to actually go back and finish that thing because I bought it, started it, and just never, went to. I was like, this doesn't really feel like my alley. Maybe I'll come back to this when I read more, and then I just never went back to it. I was going to go back to it for the Arrowverse, doing Crisis on Infinite Earths. I just never did. So it's a thick hardcover book. It's a real thick hardcover book, and there's so many characters. There's over like 300 characters in that book. It's
Yeah,
insane.
so we'll have to get to that and see it. But yeah, I'm excited for those animated films coming out. I know some people are down on the fact that they're doing Crisis, but uh, it hasn't been officially revealed if it's a part two or a three-parter or anything. So I'm waiting until we get more information about it because usually they do more than two animated films a year, right? And they only have two, so I
Yeah,
assume both of them will have
right.
multiple parts.
So
That's what
before
I'm thinking.
really, that makes sense. I'll tell you what, these animated movies, if you're getting upset about them, they're
Yeah,
so low
they are.
stakes.
They are.
You know the greatest thing the greatest thing about an animated movie is if you don't like it, you get a bunch more of them, and you can have ones you like and ones you don't like. It's not like these live action movies where they're just shoving money down a hole and they're saying grow into something amazing and you have to be like $1 billion or you're nothing. It's funny to me because w- these animated movies are such a treat because they don't even really have that much of an incentive to give them to us. Like if they stop giving them to us, there'd be some upset people, and we'd all kind of get over it.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said, the animated films are so you know. I I don't even think they're all that great at times. I
There are some
Right.
of them
I
that
mean,
are
like the
not good.
animation, even at times, like these are not big budget
Mhm.
movies, right? These are small budget
No,
movies that you know.
all
Right,
look the
right. They
same.
keep a
Like
style throughout the
so many
universe.
of them look the same. Actually, one of the things I'm noticing with my adventures with Superman is there are animation styles I just don't like. I don't love the animation style. It doesn't I don't like it. I like the story. I like the characters. I like the acting. The animation style, it's a big deterrent. It's going to keep it from being one of my favorite projects. But it's fun. It's a weekly thing. Cool. But anime style, it doesn't quite work with me.
Yeah, I'm not a big anime guy, so. Anything else about the Dark Knight? I know I probably put a damper on this for people, but tried not to.
The Bat Pod was fantastic. I love the Bat Pod and the scene where Joker's going, "Come on, hit me! I want you to do it. Hit me! I want you to do it." Absolutely fantastic. Um, I think we hit on all the stuff. I could just wax poetically about how much I love this movie, so that would get pretty boring for you. I think we're good on that front.
All right, awesome. Well, we'll start wrapping it up here. I'm not sure what next week is. It might be the draft. It may not. It's going to be coming up at some point. If not, we'll be talking about something before we get to it. Um, yeah,
We'll come up
yeah.
with an
So
idea.
sit tight, download the episode when it comes available, and listen back. But thank you all for watching and listening. All of our handles for the podcast is at Elseworlds DC Fan on all of your favorite platforms. What's Twitter now? Is it X or is it not? We don't really know. But you can catch us there at Elseworlds DC Fan, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, email us if you want to email us. Elseworlds at DCFan. Uh, ElseworldsDCFan at gmail.com. But thank you all for watching and listening. We'll catch you next time. Have a great rest of your week.